Hay voz secreta del amor oscuro. Hay voz secreta del amor oscuro. Hay balidos sin lanas. Hay herida. Hay aguja de hiel. Camelilla hundida. Hay corriente sin mar. Ciudad sin muro. Hay noche inmensa de perfil seguro. Montaña celestial de angustia erguida. Hay perro en corazón, voz perseguida. Silencio sin confín, lirio maduro. Huye de mí, caliente voz de hielo, no me quieras perder en la maleza, donde sin fruto gimen carne y cielo. Deja el duro marfil de mi cabeza, apiádate de mí, rompe mi duelo, que soy amor, que soy naturaleza.
Hello, Vivre Musicale fans. Greetings to you this time from London rather than Ireland. It seems a good time to be talking to you about this piece. I know the last time, or the last vlog, I was quite unclear and uncertain about what was going to happen with this piece, but it's at a point now where it's become a lot clearer and the idea is a lot more formed and I hope interesting to listen to. I should start by telling you what you just heard, which is one of the poems that will be used as part of this song cycle, read to you by none other than Vivre Musicale's Virginal Rash. It's a poem called "Oh Secret Voice of Dark Love," one of a poem from a collection called Sonnets of Dark Love by Federico Garcia Lorca, who is a really, really amazing poet, amazing life, amazing story, wrote very beautiful poetry. I suppose I should sort of fill you in on where we're at and what's happening. And I think it strikes me as important to talk a little bit about Lorca himself, because Lorca as a figure, as a sort of cultural and historical figure in Spain, and it's quite important for me and actually quite important for the piece to kind of be clear about how I feel about him. And I suppose what's interesting about him is that he was an artist who was very much alive to the world and very much clear about what it meant for him to make things, to make works of art in the context that he lived in Spain in the earlier part of the 20th century. These poems themselves, Sonnets of Dark Love, come from, they're the last poems that he wrote. And it's only very recently come to light that they were written for a man called Juan Ramirez de Lucas. And they're written to Ramirez in the sort of 1930s. The story being that he was Lorca's lover, and Lorca had the intention of leaving Spain with Ramirez and moving to America. And this was cut short by the event where before they left, Lorca left to basically go home to collect his things to leave, and was rounded up by the sort of in the Spanish Civil War by a group of sort of, I think they were pro Franco, and he was shot. He was shot for his political beliefs and well, it's not entirely clear the exact reasons why he was shot, or whatever an explanation might have been given was never given. But it seems fairly obvious to me that it was a mixture of his his homosexuality and his political leanings, that he was marked out as an agitator and a what's the word I'm looking for? You're sort of against the sort of Franco-Phalange regime, and he was as such eliminated. But the thing that strikes me as really interesting is that he had tremendous integrity and tremendous courage, and he wasn't willing to compromise these things in order to survive. I mean, it had gotten to a point where he sort of had to. He was planning on leaving, but unfortunately that never happened. And I think when thinking about this piece and thinking about Vivre Musicale asking for a work that was in some way based on war and peace, Lorca is a really good example because his life was wrought with conflicts and tensions, and not only on this sort of political sort of level, but also on a personal level to do with his being gay. And that's what's so that in mind, I'm just going to digress now for a moment and to talk about the actual poems and the poetry itself. The Sonnets of Dark Love are written for, as I said, Juan Ramirez de Lucas, and they're gay poems, written at a time when it wasn't okay to be that way, and you know, they're really filled with this sort of tension. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's quite clear that they're gay poems, but the language is so elusive and so evocative rather than prescriptive that there's a real sort of tension in them. It's like sort of trying to resolve certain things that I don't think they really do resolve, but they beg the question, and it's like they're sort of pregnant with those feelings. And so the war aspect of this piece is at once both stemming from what we know about Lorca as a historical figure and a cultural figure in Spain at the time, and also those tensions that exist in the poetry. And the peace aspect is I mean, is there a peace aspect in it? I don't know. I think it begs the question, you know, what is the peace? In a sort of, you know, not so eloquent a way of putting it, but I hope that's clear. And so, the way that we're planning, the way that I see it at the moment, and what's much clearer, is the song cycle. The work is both a song cycle and a theatrical piece at the same time, in that there's still it being for two singers, clarinet and piano. There are still going to be the settings of the poems as sort of soliloquies, so they're these pillars within a sort of dramatic narrative, whereby the tenor and the soprano are singing with the piano and the clarinet, which sounds self-evident, but I'll explain that in a moment. Settings of these poems. And then around these, there's going to be a very simple theatrical narrative detailing the last kind of thoughts and actions, this is the fantasy part that's being composed, and I'm working with a very great composer, actually, / dramaturg / theatre director, who I will talk about in the next vlog, about to construct a very simple narrative in which these soliloquies can sit. The idea being one of trying to make a work that's sort of understated, But yeah, very powerful and hopefully moving. So yeah, this is where we're at the moment, and starting to compose, which is I suppose the part that you're going to be probably more interested. Well, probably not more interested in, but the end result will be the interesting thing. Or well, hopefully. But yeah, so I thought it would be a nice way to start the piece, or to start this vlog, with hearing some of the poems, and I think it would also be a nice way to end it. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you'll be looking forward to the next one. I hope you are, I am. So I'm going to leave you with another of the Lorca poems called Love's Wound, read again by Virginal Rash.
Llagas de amor. Esta luz, este fuego que devora, este paisaje gris que me rodea, este dolor por una sola idea, esta angustia de cielo, mundo y hora, este llanto de sangre que decora, lira sin pulso ya, lúbrica tea, este peso del mar que me golpea, este alacrán que por mi pecho mora, son guirnalda de amor, cama de herido, donde sin sueño sueño tu presencia, y entre las ruinas de mi pecho hundido, y aunque busco la cumbre de prudencia, me da tu corazón valle tendido, con cicuta y pasión de amarga ciencia.